At exactly 2 minutes past 9, my name is Vivian Dagwa and the program on air is Good Morning Kenya. Now today, on this day, we commemorate the African Anti-Corruption Day. And on this particular day, we just get to pause and reflect on the progress on the war on graft. We get to ask the questions, what is being done? You know, what is working, what is not, what is yet to be implemented, and where exactly are we as a country in this fight on corruption? I am joined in studio by Miss Kiprotich. She is going to help us answer all these questions that we have on matters corruption. She is the Assistant Director, Education in the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Miss Ann, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Kindly let us in on what you do.
Thank you. As you have indicated, I'm an Assistant Director in the Department of Education and Public Awareness at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. This is the department that implements corruption prevention programs through education and public awareness. The main objective of education and public awareness is to ensure that we work on attitude and behavior change to be able to bring to speed the members of the public on their role in terms of raising their awareness so that we can be able to enlist their support in the fight against corruption. So basically what the role is all about is raising their awareness on issues of corruption so that they get to know what corruption entails and what is their space in contributing to the fight against corruption. Thank you.
We celebrate African Anti-Corruption Day. What is the day all about? What does it entail and what is its importance?
Thank you so much. In terms of the commemoration that is today, we are observing the African Anti-Corruption Day. And it dates back to 20 years of progress since member states of the African Union Convention on Prevention and Combating of Corruption came together to agree that there was need to acknowledge that corruption is a challenge that is bedeviling development in our region, that is the African continent. And 48 member states came together and they ratified this law. And when we talk about the day, the main objective of the day is to help the member states to reflect and focus on the initiatives that they can put in place to enhance the fight against corruption so that we can be able to achieve the Africa that we all need, an Africa that is full of justice, an Africa that is developing in terms of the economical growth, and also far from that, to have an Africa that is free of corruption in line with vision, with the Agenda 2063. So today, the member states will be commemorating this achievement, and our theme is African Union Convention on Combating and Preventing Corruption at 20, and we are looking at prospects and achievements.
Okay, there's this picture that has been painted of Africa. I know you have to agree with me that this is a picture that is there where we are seen as being extremely corrupt, like totally corrupt. Kenya being in there. How bad is it?
Okay, maybe before we go into that, allow me to just re-emphasize why we are having this commemoration. In terms of commemorating, it's because we are acknowledging the efforts that have been put in place. And in Kenya, which is a member state, the event or the run-up to the commemoration is being coordinated by the Kenya Leadership and Integrity Forum. This is a multi-stakeholder approach whereby we have all the stakeholders coming in, over 20 stakeholders coming in to support the fight against corruption, because we do acknowledge that it is a challenge, it's a menace that is facing this country. So today, we have stakeholders coming together to acknowledge that we need to give our contribution to the fight against corruption and that it is possible, it is a war that we can win. And some of the major activities that are lined up for the commemoration so that we can look at Africa at large is that we have robust media engagements, and this is one of them. We have several media outlets running publicity and awareness programs to just bring the members of the society to be part of this dialogue, to be part of this very important discussion, because corruption indeed affects us either directly or indirectly. We also have social media engagements in our Twitter handle, in our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram. We are all there ready to answer the questions. And finally, we will be having the climax of the day being an integrity lecture taking place this morning at the University of Nairobi. And it will be meant to bring all the members and all the stakeholders to have a discussion around these issues. So back to the issue of where we are as a continent, it is true we cannot run away from the challenge of corruption. Indeed, it has affected us at a personal level, at a society level, even at the economic and the political arenas. And true to speak, it is affecting us, but I want to appreciate that there are countries that have done quite well in terms of, being able to put in place strategies. We have approaches that have been put in place, such as the East African anti-corruption agencies that have come together to acknowledge that there is a challenge, just as we have this African Union Convention. And I want to say that yes, Africa has continued to face the challenge of corruption, which hampers the realization of development goals. It also affects the realization of progress and also affects good governance. But nonetheless, we can say that this is a war that we can win, and progressively the democratic and the accountability space has really improved compared to the years back, save for a few of African countries that may be struggling with civil war and the like. But so far so good, there is progress, but there is still work to be done. There's work to be done. Yes.
Narrowing it down to Kenya as a country, let's forget about Africa for a moment. Let's talk about the country that is Kenya. There's a report, there's a data report that was done in the Transparency International's 2022, and on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being highly corrupt and 100 being extremely clean, Kenya scored 32%. So we are not very okay.
Thank you. Indeed, it doesn't paint a great picture, but this is a perception survey, which was based on indicators to understand whether Kenyans are satisfied with the level of service delivery, issues of accountability indices. But compared to the previous year, we improved a step, because previously we were at 31 out of 100, and in the latest ranking we improved a step and we were at 32%. Of course, there are those countries of the world that have been able to do well, and for those who are at at 100, it means there are very low levels of corruption. And we do believe that progressively this is a journey. If we can continue to engage the members of the public to ensure that all and sundry follow in this journey of being able to change our country, we will be able to graduate that corruption is a menace that is taking us back and is denying us our gains. If we can get to the realization that we need to be honest, you don't have to pay a bribe in order to get recruitment or to be employed. You don't have to pay a bribe in order to get a particular service. If everyone would do the right thing, someone says that we all know what to do, but the hard part is doing it right. And I want to use this platform to rally all the listeners, or maybe all the viewers, and even all Kenyans of goodwill, to be able to journey with us, and we will be able to change that narrative. So, Vivian, I want to believe that we will be able to move from the current rating of 32 to probably a higher rating.
I know that you've touched on some of the loopholes, but if you may just go deeper on more loopholes that we have against this fight.
Thank you. I want to look at the challenges that we face in the fight against corruption. One of the challenges is the attitude. Because, as I said, if we can be able to change the attitude and the perception so that everybody knows that you don't have to, bribe your way into getting a service. If we are able to change the attitude, and in terms of changing the attitude, we have various approaches. We have the civil society organizations who can demand for an accountability framework from the services that they seek from government. One of the other challenges has been politicization. Politicization has been a challenge because every time we have people who've been, identified to have engaged in corruption, maybe they've been summoned to, record their statements, you will see people from their backyards, especially the feeling that maybe they are being targeted because they belong to a certain political orientation. But the picture is not that. As the commission, that is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, in discharging our mandate, which I will talk about briefly, we do not get, guided by considerations of, political opinions, or maybe where somebody, in terms of religion, we do not discriminate. When it comes to investigating and handling the issues, we do handle in a very professional manner. The other challenge has been, where witnesses get threatened. You find that there are people out there who threaten witnesses, such that people start having the fear to come forward and report cases of corruption. But nonetheless, we have mechanisms to protect whistleblowers. We have the Witness Protection Agency, whereby if somebody feels that maybe they are being threatened, they can always report and they get protection. The other challenge we have is the slow wheel of justice. Depending on the complexity of the case, maybe a case may be having an international aspect, whereby maybe monies have been stashed in foreign bank accounts. It may take a lot of time to be able to conclude on such cases, because you'll find that we may need to engage with the other jurisdictions where the monies have been stashed in. We will need to have engagements through mutual legal assistance of those countries, so that through the framework of mutual legal assistance, they will be able to help us to, get hold of these individuals, so that we can be able to repatriate them back to be charged for offenses of corruption which they committed even elsewhere. So the challenges are quite many, but I believe we can be able to change the narrative, because we've even seen impunity. There are those people who are brazen, and they go to the extent of even destroying evidence. You find that a whole organization would even decide to tamper with records so that they conceal the evidence, which actually slows or affects, becomes a challenge to the fight against corruption. We've seen people burn down offices in the guise of trying to protect, or maybe to cover up for those people who engage in corruption. So the challenges are many, but nonetheless the opportunities are equally many. And I usually look at it from my point of view, and even from the point of view of the Commission, how, and in line with the theme of this commemoration that we are having today in Kenya, and also in the entire region of Africa. I usually say it is possible for us to change, or to turn these challenges into opportunities, so that we can gain as a region.
Yeah, you mentioned that we all have a role to play in this, and I agree with you, because I feel like in a way we kind of glorify corruption, because there's this phrase that we usually use just on a lighter note, that the end justifies the means. So it doesn't matter how someone came up with the wealth that they have, as long as they have it well, the end justifies the means. So I really agree with you on the fact that we all have a role to play. If I may ask, who is yet to come on board on this fight?
Thank you. In terms of bringing on board, other sectors and other actors, I believe it is high time it becomes a rallying call for all of us. I want to appreciate the leadership at various levels. They've pronounced themselves on the need to, eradicate corruption. And what I would want to say is that it's high time we get the citizens to support the fight against corruption. Because yes, as I had indicated earlier, we have the institutions, but the leadership still needs to continue, providing that leadership being a leadership that can be emulated. Because if you look at the requirements of leadership as provided for in the Constitution under Chapter 6, it requires that we have leaders who uphold integrity, leaders who are honest, leaders who are accountable, and leaders who will make decisions not based on, corrupt deals, or maybe, motivations of corruption. So what I would want to say is that we have leaders who still need to come forth and really support the fight, because quite a number of times I know we have a role as the leaders, but if we are to be asked, can we stand to be counted? That is the question I'm challenging the leadership, that we need at whatever level, without being specific to any leader, we need to actually, continue leading by example. Then back to the citizens. We are the ones that get, most often we get affected by the challenge of corruption. either directly or indirectly. You may be traveling on a poorly done road. What does that do to your car? If you are seeking for services, you are asked to pay even for services that are free. But you are willing because you are not patient enough. We've seen people who want certain services and they are being told that this service will take 10 days, for instance. Maybe you are applying for a passport and you are not willing to follow the due process because you want to corrupt your way. How many of us can stand up and do the right thing? And that is what I'm saying. But at the same time, it is possible to change the narrative. And in terms of bringing on board all the stakeholders, what I would say is that it's high time we become deliberate and particularly to the citizens, because most often you'll find that they are the ones who suffer the consequences of corruption. But at the same time, I'm also addressing the leaders and all of us, whether we are in the public or the private sector spheres.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You say that it is possible to change the narrative. What are some of the opportunities available in combating this menace of corruption?
Thank you. In terms of the opportunities, allow me to just look at some of the strategies that as the Commission we've been able to put in place to strengthen the fight against corruption. And one of our focus areas has been focusing on high impact investigations. When we talk about high impact investigations, we look at investigations that focus on individuals. It focuses on high value assets, and at the same time, they are driven by public interest. And this has been a strategy or an opportunity that we can continue utilizing. Because if we are able to focus on high impact investigations involving certain personalities, we will be able to change or maybe have quicker gains, because if you look at the asset tracing and asset recovery initiatives that the Commission has used, which is another opportunity that we are utilizing, is because it may take long to charge people for, economic crimes. But if we are able to file civil suits to be able to recover assets which people acquired corruptly, because somebody may have gotten the loophole to maybe advantage themselves or give themselves a favor while they are serving in office. These people will go out enjoying this loot. But one of our strategies or one of the opportunities that we've been able to utilize is the asset tracing and asset recovery. And we've been able to, make a lot of progress, as I shall give details later in this field. The other opportunity is value-based education. We have an opportunity to indulge even the young persons in this country, the young citizens who are the leaders of tomorrow. We have been engaging through the Ministry of Education with learners in institutions of learning. We've also been able to engage youth in the higher institutions of learning, like the universities and the TVET institutions, with the main aim of changing their attitude, because these are people we will be entrusting the leadership of this country in future. And for us to be able to, change their attitude, if we begin at an early step, like, even the teachings in some religious circles speak about, if you raise a child in the way you want them to be, they will not forget the teachings that you give them or you expose them to at an early stage. So we know we have various socialization agents, such as the society, education as a system of socializing people, and even the family unit. At the family unit, we also need to continue influencing. So for us, this has been an opportunity. We've been able to set up what we call the integrity clubs, through which young people get to have a conversation about ethical dilemmas, how they go about day-to-day issues. And as a result, we've seen some progress in schools where we probably had, students destroying school property, students going on strike, examinations cheating. It has come down, and even in terms of aspects of discipline, we've seen improved progress in that level. So there is a lot more that we can do. So in terms of the opportunities, there are quite more. And the last one I would want to talk about is the partnership approach, because the fight against corruption cannot be single-handedly won by EACC. We will need to join efforts. We need to collaborate with various institutions, both the public and the private sector. And this is one of the opportunities that we've been able to explore. We've entered into memorandum of understanding with various organizations, with various partners, both the international and the local development partners, to be able to support the fight against corruption and to mainstream corruption prevention.
Okay. How do we bring the corrupt to book, especially those who hold high offices?
Thank you. What I would want to say when it comes to, handling the corrupt, allow me to just speak briefly to the mandate of the Commission. The Commission is an independent constitutional commission, that is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, established pursuant to Section 3 of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act of 2011, and again pursuant to Article 79 of the Constitution, which establishes an independent Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. The Commission has the legal mandate in response to the question of handling the corrupt. It has a legal mandate to combat and prevent corruption through investigation of corruption and unethical conduct. In terms of investigating the corrupt, when we receive complaints on allegations of corruption and unethical conduct touching on leaders or maybe public officers, even the private citizens, we do make investigations and then make recommendations for them to be charged in a court of law. And we do give our recommendations to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, who then looks at the evidence given, and then they charge those who've been found to be culpable. So the first strategy is prevention, because prevention is better than cure. And I have talked at length about prevention, where we work towards changing the attitude. But in the event we are not able to handle some of the people who probably have refused to change their attitude and they find themselves engaging in corruption, then the law will take its course. So that is one of the issue, and I've talked about the issues of asset recovery and, making corruption to be costly, making corruption to be very painful for those people who think that maybe I've made a kill today, they've amassed illegally acquired wealth, but then we come in through the asset recovery and we take away whatever you've acquired. And I believe that in itself becomes very painful, because yes, you've toiled, you've gotten it easy, and people are probably maybe glorifying you for having made it in life. But when the law comes in and we are able to recover it back and repatriate it back to support other programs in government, then I believe that is the best approach. Thank you.
Today being the 7th edition of this particular day since the inception in 2017, what are some of the achievements that you can talk about?
Thank you so much. In terms of the achievements, I want to narrow the achievements to the last 5 years. That's the period 2018 to 2023. Of importance maybe to our stakeholders is that we are concluding, we have retired our strategic plan for that period, and we are soon embarking on launching a new strategic plan to guide the processes of the Commission in as far as the fight against corruption is concerned. That is for the next 5 years. So allow me to just run quickly through some of the achievements, because it is in line with the theme of this African Anti-Corruption Day commemoration, where we are looking at the milestones, the achievements, and the prospects. So in terms of tracing of assets, we've been able to trace assets worth over 44 billion, and these are assets whereby we've been able to trace, and we've filed cases to ensure that we trace and recover these assets. In terms of recoveries, we've been able to recover assets worth 28 billion. 28.84 billion, which have been recovered, and we've been able to return it back to the public. These are monies and assets that had gotten into the wrong hands through proceeds of corruption. We also have ongoing cases for recovery of assets worth 42 billion. Notable of these assets include a parcel of land, a 56-acre land belonging to the Meteorological Department, and this is land that whose value is at 5.2 billion at the time of recovery, and it has been set aside for public benefit projects. We see projects coming up like housing, and this is one of the things that is a true demonstration that we can be able to repatriate back whatever had been stolen and put it into good use. Previously, during we also recovered land belonging to KALRO, that is Kenya Agricultural Research Organization, and we were able to recover land worth 800 million. We've also recovered land in Mombasa, in Buxton, whose value is at 398 million. We've actually equally recovered land belonging to High Court in Kisumu, whose worth is at the value of 1 billion shillings. At the same time, we were able to recover 6 parcels of land belonging to Uasin Gishu County government at the value of 1.9 billion in terms of the value. But in terms of averting loss, we've been able to avert loss of assets and public property at the worth of 34 billion, which we've been able to avert through proactive investigation, through proactive intelligence, which we receive that this is about to happen, and we disrupt those networks, which is for us an increase compared to the previous years. It indicates that we were able to improve by 75% compared with what we were able to avert in the previous years. So all in all, there is a lot of success stories that we can pride ourselves in that end. But apart from the investigations and asset-related issues, in terms of prevention, we've been able to set up the National Integrity Academy, which focuses on long-term training on ethics and integrity, touching on professionals and public sector individuals. We've also been able to conduct corruption risk assessments, through which we were able to identify the loopholes, and we gave advisories to public sector institutions to be able to, implement so that they are able to prevent corruption. And
right,
finally,
I'll have to cut you short for a moment. We take a short break, and then when we come back, you'll be telling us more about. Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. Before we took the break, Miss Anne was just telling us about some of the achievements they've had so far. So if we could get back to that, if you could wind up on the achievements.
Thank you. Vivian, I was actually getting to the last achievement, and that is in the space of education and public awareness. In terms of reaching out to the members of the public, one of our achievements in the last 5 years has been that we've been able to reach out to students or learners in institutions of learning with a message on integrity to just enhance issues of value-based education. We've been able to train and sensitize public sector officials drawn from the ministries and departments and government agencies. We've also been able to reach out to the counties and even all the members of the public through the community networks, that is the civil society engagements, to be able to bring them to support the fight against corruption. So that sums up the series of achievements we've been able to realize in the last 5 years.
Today being the day that we commemorate the African Anti-Corruption Day, what are some of the activities that are expected to take place on this day?
Thank you. I think I earlier on made a mention of some of the activities, but let me briefly just run through them again. We will be having an integrity lecture taking place at the University of Nairobi, and this lecture brings together all the stakeholders. We will be having His Eminent, His Lordship, Honorable Justice Ringera, who will be leading those discussions. We appreciate the contribution he's made towards ensuring that we all support the fight against corruption. We will be having this lecture to just bring on board all the stakeholders as we work towards achieving Kenya that is a country that is ethical, because the theme of that lecture is in the quest for an ethical Kenyan society, because we realize that ethics play a very important role in the society, and it will be a platform for us to interrogate our ethical commitment. It will be a platform for us to reflect on what we still need to do so that we can better, the prospects of the fight against corruption, because we need to use both the prevention and the law enforcement approaches. We will also be having a robust media engagement. There is quite a series of media interviews, talk shows in radios and even in TVs to just sensitize Kenyans. And we are using this platform to also communicate about our presence even in the country. For instance, our headquarters is here in Nairobi. We have our head office at the Integrity Center. We also have regional presence in 11 regional offices. We are based in Mombasa. We have an office serving the North Rift in Eldoret. We have an office in Nakuru serving the Central Rift. We have an office in Machakos, Garissa. We have an office in Bungoma, Kisumu, and Isiolo, and many others. And We also have presence in Huduma centers, in all the over 50 desks in Huduma centers, where we interact with the members of the public to receive their reports and complaints, because we believe that the citizens play a very key role. In addition, we are also having presence on social media platforms, on our social media handles. We will be present. We will be having a team that is dedicated to answering your questions and being able to disseminate information around this commemoration. So it is a very key activity for us under the Kenya Leadership and Integrity Forum, because under the Kenya Leadership and Integrity Forum, we have quite a number of sectors, including the executive, because we believe that the executive has a role. If leadership dedicates itself to the fight against corruption, and if it leads from the front, it will actually give us the many prospects that we are looking forward to. We have the legislature playing a key role, because they are the ones charged with, passing legislations and coming with laws that strengthen the fight against corruption, issues of policies and all that. We also have other stakeholders such as the judiciary. The judiciary plays a key role because it's a critical actor on issues of justice, issues of punishing the corrupt individuals. These are issues that are being handled at the judiciary level or at the law courts, which is a very critical sector. We also have the Office of the Auditor General and other watchdog agencies under the Kenya Leadership and Integrity Forum, whose role is to ensure that there is oversight over public resources, because we have to safeguard the public resources to ensure that Kenyans get value for the money. And many other stakeholders, such as the community-led, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations. And in terms of faith-based organizations, they equally play a key role, because theirs is to sensitize the members or maybe their followers through the religious teachings, because I believe all the religious teachings, be it Islam, be it Christianity, Hindu, they have a role to rally their congregants to be able to support the fight against corruption, and for them to distance themselves from corruption. Because I usually look at many of the leaders. Sometimes you may be finding, you may find someone who is a religious leader during the worship day, be it Friday or Sunday or whichever day of worship that they are observing. But on Monday to Friday, these are people who engage in corruption. So where are we going? And it's a challenge we've given to the religious leaders to continue passing the message. So we have quite a number of stakeholders, including the county governments and many others. And the key role of these stakeholders is to strengthen and enhance the partnership in the fight against corruption, so that each and everyone contributes. Because someone says, if you sweep your front yard to be clean, and if everybody does it, the whole street will be clean. And that is the vision that we have, that if everyone comes on board, we will be able to have a corrupt-free Kenyan society, which is the vision of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which is equally a stakeholder under the Kenya Leadership and Integrity Forum.
All right. Your vision is to have a corrupt-free Kenya, a Kenya that is free of corruption completely. There's a discussion that is being talked about and has always been talked about, and that is the economy of the country at the moment. Just to put across how important a corruption-free Kenya is, just what role does corruption play on matters our economy?
Thank you. There is a very strong nexus between the economy and issues of corruption, just as I usually look at it as having a very strong linkage also with the human rights, or the realization of human rights. If corruption takes place, it steals and denies, it steals away from citizens or each and every individuals their rights to enjoy, quality healthcare, a good life. And in as far as issues of the economy are concerned, when corruption takes place, a lot is looted. People are not able to enjoy the services from government. They are not even enjoy a quality. They cannot even enjoy a quality life. So corruption hampers the economy, and one of the effects of corruption is that the economy does not do well when corruption is taking place, because we are not able to develop as a society. People are not able to even enjoy a meal, because it takes the cost of living very high. When corruption takes place, one of the effects is the high cost of living. People are not able to even cater for their needs. People it also denies people opportunities to get employment, or maybe opportunities for recruitment, because due to corruption and as a result of that denied rights, people may not do well economically. In terms of corruption, you find that the infrastructure is also affected. We'll end up having poor delivery of services, poor infrastructure, we'll have poor roads, lack of clean water or access to clean water, which is a basic human right. People will lack housing, because if you look at the Constitution, Article 43, this menace so that we can enjoy a quality, good life, and also be able to, have a corrupt-free Kenyan society, and if I may say, a corrupt-free African continent.
One may be asking, what exactly is standing in the way of us eradicating corruption?
Thank you. I will say it again. The commitment.
Okay.
Yes, the commitment, lack of ethics, because there are people who have rationalized or justified corruption. There are people who feel that corruption is a way of life. But if we can change that attitude, that mindset needs to change. And I believe, as I had said earlier, we all know what to do. The only hard part is doing it right. If we can be able to do the right thing, I believe we will be able to change. So in terms of what stands in the way of, being able to eradicate corruption, there are quite a number of challenges, as I had mentioned earlier. Aspects of the law, there are some laws that need to be strengthened so that we can be able to deal with issues of corruption. But I believe it's a work in progress, and we will be able to change the narrative right now and even into the future. My rallying call would be, if we can all join efforts so that we safeguard this lovely country called Kenya, we will be able to have even people coming to benchmark with us to ask us, what did you people do? Where did you get it right? We would also want to, emulate you as a country. So it's a question of the belief, the mindset, and the attitude, and of course the actors playing their role, and all and sundry supporting the fight against corruption.
When you talk about it, it seems so far-fetched, the idea of having a corruption-free country. It seems so far-fetched. It seems like it's almost unattainable, but you stand your ground that it is attainable, right?
I believe if we work together, if we walk in this journey, we will be able to change gradually. As we've seen some of the achievements, I know it's still a long way to go, but it is doable if we all believe and rally along the call.
All right. Maybe any last words as we finish on this discussion?
Thank you. As we come to the end of the show, I just want to call upon all Kenyans of goodwill to support the fight against corruption. All members of the public should be able to report cases of corruption. Feel free to visit the Commission offices. Feel free to share with us reports on any allegations of corruption and unethical conduct. If somebody is making a demand on you to pay a bribe, please feel free to report. We have a short code of a toll-free number, which is 15. Let me just confirm. You can be able to reach the Commission through that toll-free number. I believe I'll be able to share. It's 1551. So there are very many ways through which we can support each other, and I call on all of us to report. Let's not support, or abet corruption. At the family unit, what are you doing? Yes. Are you a trusted role model as a parent or as a guardian? That would be my parting shot, so that your child doesn't feel that, why is this wrong, yet daddy or mommy is saying it's right to do. Thank you.
When you're asked to do something, you're given an alternative, like you need to do this for you to get this. That's still corruption, right?
It is.
That's an interesting discussion. And you've raised a very important question, issue there, that corruption starts even in our homes. Yeah?
Yes.
So how do we need to go back to schools and start teaching corruption even in school? Because if cancer is not well taken care of, it will mutate into something else.
For sure.
Yeah. So how do you go about it then?
Thank you. For me, I think it's the role of us, the citizens, or maybe the parents, or the guardians. We need to lead by example. We need to be role models, because there are these things that we do and our children are observing. You are, jumping the lights if you are driving. on the road.
Yeah.
What are you teaching this child? So, and a message given to a young child would forever remain ingrained in the mind of that child. So I believe at the family unit, we can do something so that even as we go out to the school level, we expect our teachers to fashion these children and to guide them along certain ways of, conducting themselves. And as they grow and transition to get to maybe employment in the government or maybe in the private sector, as they take up those responsibilities, they'll have started with a stronger foundation based on ethics and integrity. I hear the Japanese and the Asian countries have done very well. They've beaten us on this. The early years, they expose their children to issues of etiquette, issues of ethics, where a child gets to know that this is not right and this is right. And I believe this is something that we can do as the African society and the Kenyan society.
Earlier on in our show, one of the guests said that when he travels across the borders, the picture that we get as a country is that Kenya is a corrupt nation.
Yeah,
corruption bites us, but does that really worry you?
It actually does, because it's a question of perception. How do we conduct ourselves? I hear in other jurisdictions, the Asian countries, for instance, nobody would run after you to pay your taxes. Even if I stay for 5 years, I have to pay.
It's your
but
obligation.
Here in Kenya, what happens? You have to enforce the law for people to do what is expected of them. But I want to say that it is possible to change the narrative if we all do the right thing. If we gradually commit to doing the right thing, I believe one day, one time, we will get there. It may not be easy, but we will get there.
Charity, as they say, begins at home. So it is all up for me and you to, help fight this menace of corruption.
When you hear the president talks about the issue of corruption, the KEMSA officials are actually going home, left, right, and center. What is your focus as an institution? Leaps and bounds moving forward?
Thank you. We will continue discharging our mandate as the Commission in terms of enforcing the law. And on a day-to-day basis, there are quite a number of issues that the Commission implements, and I may not get into those issues because today we are here to commemorate, the African Anti-Corruption Day. But I want to assure Kenyans of goodwill that we are on course in the fight against corruption. Support us, let's walk the journey together, and we'll be able to deal with it. As you can see, those issues you've just alluded to, they are issues that are in the public sphere, but we are also on course. We are working on most of these issues. So I wouldn't want to delve further than that, but rest assured that we are working and we are ready to support the fight against corruption so that we have that vision, as I've just talked about, a corrupt-free Kenyan society.
In the morning, before we started the show, we were making fun of how creative Kenyans can be. We are creative in any way. You fix this, the second one, they'll come up with an idea. So how creative are corrupt individuals? Because sometimes you come with an idea or a situation to arrest corruption, but they will do something else to get corrupt, and the wheel will continue to go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, for sure, corruption mutates. It takes various forms. And from time to time, from the prevention point of view, we've been giving advisories to various government institutions, and these advisories are aimed at helping them to strengthen the controls so that they are able to prevent whatever loopholes that encourage corruption to take place. Remember, the corrupt are also very clever. The risk of corruption is a very deliberate risk. The perpetrators actually who orchestrate these acts of corruption really sit to plan. So for us as an organization, we are keen to see the new forms of corruption that take place. And that's why from time to time, we undertake perception surveys to be able to understand what is new. We also reassess our strategies to be able to see which are some of the new strategies that we need to apply, because as you say, it keeps on changing. So we are quite alert, and we are keen to ensure that we are on top of issues each and every time as we continue to implement our mandate.
Vivian, are you corrupt?
Well,
Are you
I am
corrupt?
not really corrupt, but as you said, you all have a role to play in this, so I'll go check myself.
What about you? Are you corrupt?
I would say the ethical dilemmas will always be there.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is how you manage or wade through these ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
There are times I would say you'd rather go through the pain so that tomorrow you do not repeat it. Like, for example, you offend maybe on the road, go pay the fine,
And it's
I
become
believe
quite common.
tomorrow
It's something
you
very
will not
normal
want
with
to
us.
get caught
Especially
up.
on the road.
Yes.
Are you corrupt yourself, Victor?
No, I am not. I am
Are
not.
you sure you've never given out a bribe on the road?
The sheriff is in town. Ongea pole pole. The sheriff is in town. I'm not corrupt. Okay. Maliza show. All right.
All right. As Miss Ann Kiprotich says, we are on course. That is her words, and we are on course on this fight against corruption. This is where we end today's discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in. Victor, I don't know, do you